Hey everyone, before we get started on today's video, if you didn't use a referral code when you signed up to drive for Uber, it is not too late to get a bonus of up to $1,000. You can use my code right now and you could get that bonus. It depends on when you signed up. It could be $500, could be $800, it literally could be $1,200. But you could literally just get that money right in your account just because you did give the rides then, but you didn't use a referral code. So real quick, here's how you do it. First, open your Uber driver app. Next, click the photo or the 3 lines in the corner. Click earnings. Then click help or question mark. Click account and payment. Then referrals. Now this is the most important step. Make sure you don't mess this one up. Click invited driver, report my missing or incorrect referral. Then click send a message. Type in my invite code. It's G4QA5UE. Guess who your friend's name is? Mr. Gregory Wave. That's right, your homie for life. Phone number 815-847-0184. And the email is gregwave@yahoo.com. In the details, just say my good pal Greg referred me to drive for Uber or something like that, and they'll take care of you. So check it out, guys. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rideshare Hub. My name is Greg. I have an awesome video for you guys today. Some of you guys, your favorite videos that I do are when I just kind of go off on Uber and Lyft. It's the funniest thing to me. I feel like we all, we love Uber and Lyft, but man, deep down we kind of hate them too. At least that's how I've felt throughout the years. It's like, oh, you guys have done so much for me, but man, you do some crazy stuff. So, but before we get into that, guys, I wanted to tell you guys about Play Octopus real quick. A lot of you probably have already heard of Play Octopus, and if you've heard of it and you haven't signed up, let's just call it what it is. You're a fool. No, I'm just kidding. You're an amazing person, a beautiful human being. But on a real note, Play Octopus is incredible. It just launched in 20 new markets, so if you were on the waiting list, you're probably about to get yours in the mail. If you're not, you need to sign up today using the link in our description, because this is like free money. It's the ultimate introverted driver's weapon for getting 5-star ratings and good tips. And it's a good conversation starter too, which is a lot of times the hardest part. So for those of you that don't know, Play Octopus is this company. They basically send you this tablet that people can play games on in your car. It's for free, and you make money when they play the games. I don't know what else you need to hear for me to convince you that you guys need this freaking service, because it is incredible. Yeah, so link in the description. Check it out. But basically, where are we at with Uber? Well, we never really know. And that's kind of the most frustrating part. Is it's now been, I feel like, a 2-year thing where they've flirted with this concept, I would say, of autonomous driving. And the last thing I heard was that they did actually lock in a major investment for the automated vehicles. Now, I'm not sure how much they're gonna need, but I gotta imagine it'd be a crazy amount, right? Because it's all fun and games to say, oh, let's replace all our drivers, because then they paid out, I think it was something like $14 billion to drivers last quarter, or maybe that was 2 quarters ago. So imagine if they can figure out how to, I'm sorry, was it 8? I can't even remember what I said in my own videos. But it's a lot of money. They paid us a lot of money. And in reality, they didn't pay us as much money as they should. But it was still a huge payout to all the drivers all over the nation and a little bit of world that drive. So that's honestly the thing that always blew my mind, is they dominated the States. How did they not get that launched internationally? There's so many other countries that started their own rideshare companies that now dominate that industry. I was reading that a lot of places, Uber is the 5th most used rideshare app in certain countries, because a lot of other places, they just took over. And I'm like, maybe we would all be making more money if Uber would have just gone international quicker and not lost all that business. Maybe they could have still paid us pretty good for a lot of things. Who knows? But, so they've been flirting with this idea for so long. They don't really ever tell the drivers anything because honestly, they just want to keep us happy enough until they launch it and then knock all of us off the app. Now, here's what I predict will happen. I'm predicting that they're going to launch a small fleet because they're smart. Well, sometimes they're smart, but they know that there's going to be a lot of people, especially a lot of old folk, a lot of people that, are scared of technology that aren't going to jump on that concept right away, even if it's significantly cheaper. Now, what does that sound like? It sounds like what everybody said about Uber when it first started, because when it first started, everybody said, well, that's crazy. Who would get in the car with a stranger? I would never get in a stranger's car, because that's the exact opposite of what a taxi cab is for some reason. But, yeah. So my prediction is that they're going to launch a small fleet of like 20, like maybe, out of all the drivers, 25% of drivers would hypothetically get replaced for these autonomous vehicles. And they would probably just be very careful. The very selective markets, they've tested it. They tested it here in Phoenix, and I believe I don't think it killed someone, but it definitely hit someone. But technically, amidst the tragedy, Uber was like, well, it actually wasn't the car's fault. I'm like, look, that's probably the last thing you should say there. Who's doing the marketing and PR stuff here? It's the last thing I would say. I'd just be making it up to the family or something. But technically, this person wasn't supposed to be in the crosswalk. So the car didn't recognize. That's why instinct is good for operating a vehicle. The vehicle didn't recognize that it should have stopped. Now, I'm guessing they're going to figure that out, because we'll never have autonomous vehicles if it can't figure out when to stop if there's human beings or animals. I mean, what if it was like a deer, like a deer or an animal isn't going to know that it should stop anywhere, especially on the highway. Like, that's what I feel like freaks me out the most about it is, like, imagine being on the highway in an autonomous car and a deer runs out, or like in some states a moose or something. I mean, you're plowing into that thing because it's not recognizing it. So I would hope in those cases, and maybe that works differently if it's on the highway, but I would hope in those cases it could recognize the object the same way it would recognize a car. But you would think it would have recognized the human being in the crosswalk, right? Well, it didn't. So it hits the person, and that's why we're probably all still driving, is because of that one accident, because they were pushing for it. So the last thing I heard, like I said, is they did receive a decent sized investment so far to work towards automation. So what always bothers me about this is we just kind of don't know. We don't know how long we have to depend on it. We don't know if we have 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, a month, to phase out, because I'm guessing that most of you watching this do a lot of Uber and Lyft driving, so it could be detrimental if you lose this, and I've said in numerous videos, you cannot be dependent on this. You need to make it a side gig, and you need to do it fast. You need to figure something out and do it fast, because if you try and start a business, that really takes like a year, 2 years to really get going. You want to be able to hustle Uber and Lyft while you're starting a business. You don't want to have like 1 or 2 months to try and figure something out, and then all of a sudden it's so hard to give a ride because everybody's taking the robots to work. And that's honestly where I think it's headed. I've said that for probably a year now, and I still believe that indefinitely. I mean, I think, like I said, there'll be a phasing out stage, but it's going to happen. So the other thing that there's been a lot of beef about with people is that we're still not getting treated like employees. And it is annoying, because I think the thing that peeves me the most is that when you break down your earnings, a lot of times you're making $12 an hour. And guess what? You're destroying your vehicle in the meantime. I don't know how many of you guys have heard my story about my original car that I started Uber with. I basically lost $7-8 grand in equity on that vehicle. Because what happened was, I had like a year and a half of full-time driving on this car. I put, I think, 115,000 miles on it in a year and a half. I know I put like 85,000 miles in it in 1 year. And by the time a year and a half had come around, it was like 115. And once 2 years hit, I was at like 140,000 miles, and that's not bad, but you're getting to the point where you'd consider it a high mile. I mean, that is a high mileage vehicle, you know? And so what happened for me was I had all those miles. Well, my car was also starting to break down, you know, and there was a lot of issues. I had a transmission code come up. I needed new shocks. I needed, and then some minor stuff like brakes and stuff that I just hadn't taken care of. It wasn't like my brakes were grinding, but I took it to a shop and got an estimate, and I needed $4,000 in repairs. Now, I can't remember what everything was that I needed done because it's been a while, but, you know, now I basically was looking at it from the perspective of I've got like 140-some thousand miles on this car. I'm going to have to put $4,000 in repairs into it, and there's a transmission code on. So, I mean, for all I know, this transmission code my transmission could go out as soon as I put $4,000 in repairs into the car. And then I got to put another, I mean, you guys would probably know better than me, but I mean, I want to say like $5,000-6,000 if I'm lucky into a transmission. Maybe there's a way better deal. Maybe there's not. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. So my point being that, I realized I had to get a new vehicle. You know, I had to suck it up because it just didn't make sense. So when I went and bought a new car, I couldn't buy a used car because I had negative equity. And so I had to absorb like $7,000-8,000 of that loan into my new car. And that's the main reason I get peeved that we don't get treated like employees, because we're out here literally murdering our vehicles. Thing is, like, it'd be one thing if it was all highway driving. It's all city driving for the most part. That's the worst type of driving. I mean, you're burning through brakes, burning through tires, all this stuff, and it just eats and eats and eats away at your car. So here's the problem, though, is if we really want to become employees, Uber has to raise their operating costs, I believe 30%, to treat us like employees, to give us X amount of benefits. And you got to know, if they really did anything like that, we would be getting the bare minimum. We would be getting probably the crappiest benefits. And what I've always said that I feel like they would do with that is I feel like they would only allow us to make $13 an hour. So it'd be like you're capped at 13, anything extra they keep. That's the only way they could make it work. And I wouldn't personally want that. You know, I mean, you're being a driver for $13 an hour. At that point, really the only real reason you're doing it is flexibility and no other reason, which that's not bad. I mean, 13 an hour for whenever you want is kind of a good hookup still. But yeah, I think we would have to decide as drivers, like, what do we want? Do we want to keep all the flexibility and have no benefits and stuff and, you know, hopefully just make a little more money somehow? Or do we want to be capped at, you know, a lower dollar amount and get some benefits that probably aren't even going to be that useful? I want the benefits, but not as badly as I want them to do something about our vehicles. They got these leasing options and these renting options. Those are just so bogus if you really look into them. So yeah, before I rant too long, let me just stop it here. I don't want to make this like a 30-minute video on you guys out of nowhere. So I'm going to sign off now. For those of you that don't know, real quick, check the link in my description if you never had a referral code when you signed up for Uber. Uber is actually doing something really cool where you can use my sign-up code and you can still get rewarded for a sign-up of essentially up to $1,000 depending on when you signed up or what the current code is. They'll reward you for those rides if you gave them. So sign up and just see what happens with it, because it could be a really good setup. But that being said, guys, please like and subscribe. I hope you guys are killing it out there, and I will talk to you guys soon.